Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. It's Thursday, January 28th, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-gyan. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. New COVID-19 cases in South Korea continue to hover around the 500 mark, with 497 more people confirmed on Thursday. Ahead of next month's vaccine rollout, the government will announce detailed vaccine inoculation measures this afternoon. The World Health Organization says the UK variant of COVID-19 has now been discovered in 70 countries around the globe, as 10 more countries reported cases of the strain in the past several days. And Samsung Electronics' operating profit for 2020 spiked nearly 30% to $32.5 billion despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Our top story this morning, South Korea's health authorities reported 497 new cases of COVID-19 on Thursday. Authorities say the trend has become unstable following the massive cluster infections related to an unauthorized missionary school in Daejeon City. Of the new cases on Thursday, 479 were locally transmitted, most in the Greater Seoul area, and 18 were from overseas. The total number of cases now nears the 77,000 mark. 8 more people have died, raising the death toll to 1,386. With the mass COVID-19 vaccine rollout beginning in South Korea next month, the government's detailed plan will be announced this afternoon. It's likely to include who will receive the vaccines first, a list of vaccination centers, and measures against possible side effects. The government plans to vaccinate high-risk healthcare workers at hospitals and people at elderly care facilities in the first quarter. The plan is to immunize 70% of the population by the third quarter and achieve herd immunity by November. In a matter of weeks since the UK variant of COVID-19 was discovered, the strain has now been reported in 70 countries. According to the World Health Organization, it spread to 10 countries over the past week alone, proving the variant is more transmissible than the original virus out of Wuhan. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
According to the WHO on Wednesday, the UK variant of COVID-19 has now been discovered in 70 countries around the globe. In its latest epidemiological update, the UN Health Agency noted that the new variant, which could render vaccine and antibody protection less effective, has spread rapidly, with 10 more countries reporting the new strain in the past several days. In response to UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's remarks last week that new studies have indicated the strain could be more deadly, the WHO stressed such results were preliminary and more analysis is required to further corroborate those findings. The WHO also noted that the South African variant has spread to 31 countries, 8 more than a week ago. Recent lab studies have shown the variant is less susceptible to antibody neutralization, raising concern it poses a high risk of reinfection. Meanwhile, the British government has announced a fresh set of measures to prevent COVID-19 and its various strains from coming in from other countries. This includes a 10-day quarantine at hotels for arrivals from 22 COVID-19 hotspot nations.
We have also banned all travel from 22 countries where there is a risk of known variants, including South Africa, Portugal, and South American nations. And in order to reduce the risk posed by UK nationals and residents returning home from these countries, I can announce that we will require all such arrivals who cannot be refused entry to isolate in government-provided accommodation, such as hotels, for 10 days without exception.
People traveling outside the UK will also need to declare their reason for leaving the country or face being turned away at the airport. Meanwhile, South Korea on Wednesday extended its suspension of direct flights from Britain for another 2 weeks. According to the South Korean embassy in Britain, the suspension, which was set to end Thursday, will now remain in place until February 11th. As of Monday, South Korea has reported 27 cases of variants, including 19 from the UK and 5 from South Africa. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in delivered a virtual address at the World Economic Forum Davos Agenda Week. There, he highlighted plans to reach inclusive recovery by implementing the Korean New Deal. Our political correspondent, Hong Yu, reports.
What South Korea wants to achieve in the post-pandemic era is an inclusive recovery and takeoff. President Moon Jae-in said in his keynote speech Wednesday for the Davos Agenda Week that South Korea has minimized the economic impact of the pandemic by helping the most vulnerable get back on their feet. As a result, South Korea's economy is expected to recover to its pre-pandemic condition in the first half of this year and will achieve the highest growth in the OECD. He told the delegates about his administration's Korean New Deal initiative, which he said will be a leap forward for the economy by expanding employment and the social safety net.
디지털 뉴딜과 그린 뉴딜을 통해 지속 가능한 성장으로 한국 경제를 도약시키고 지역 균형 유지를 더해 지역 경제를 활성화하고 전 국민의 삶의 질을 고르게 높일 것입니다.
He also aims to create low-carbon industrial complexes as part of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. The president emphasized that South Korea has one of the world's best IT infrastructures and has remarkable digital competitiveness, proving that it's a safe partner for trade and investment. Not to mention how South Korea was able to successfully contain the spread of COVID-19. Many global companies and organizations took part in President Moon's session in anticipation that his policies will bring opportunities for business cooperation. When asked by a participant how the Korean New Deal could inspire other countries, President Moon said his policy aims to use what South Korea is best at, in this case the digital sector, to achieve growth for all. The policy could be something to consider, he said, for countries with similar experiences and goals. Another question was how the government will maintain a balance between short-term and long-term goals and between the public and private sectors. To this, the president said the Korean New Deal is a model led by the private sector and backed by the government, with the goal of increasing the country's prospects for sustainable economic growth. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
South Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics has estimated its operating profits in 2020 to be up almost 30% from the previous year. In its earnings guidance on Thursday, the company expected its operating profits to be around $32.5 billion, with sales amounting to some $213 billion. In the fourth quarter of last year, Samsung posted a 26% on-year jump in operating profits, meeting market expectations. This was largely due to strong memory chip sales and display profits despite weaker chip prices. The leaders of the U.S. and Japan have reaffirmed the need to achieve North Korea's complete denuclearization. According to the White House on Wednesday, U.S. President Joe Biden held a phone conversation with Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga for the first time since his inauguration. During the 30-minute conversation, the two leaders also underscored the role of the Washington-Tokyo alliance as a cornerstone for peace and prosperity in a free and open Indo-Pacific region. U.S. President Joe Biden's pick for Washington's next ambassador to the UN is calling for multilateral cooperation, not only with its allies, South Korea and Japan, but also with China and Russia to tackle the North Korean nuclear issue. During her Senate confirmation hearing Wednesday, Linda Thomas-Greenfield criticized the Trump administration for failing because the U.S. tried to go alone, leaving Washington's allies holding the bag. Biden and his national security team have already stressed the need to restore Washington's relationship with its traditional allies, including Seoul. On Wednesday, U.S. President Joe Biden signed a series of executive orders that prioritize climate change and put the U.S. on track to curb planet-warming carbon emissions. He also revealed plans to hold a climate summit on Earth Day in April. Choi Jung-yun has more.
Good afternoon, everybody.
It is time to act. That's why U.S. President Joe Biden said while signing an executive order to combat climate change.
Look, this executive order I'm signing today also makes it official that climate change will be at the center of our national security and foreign policy. Just like we need a unified national response to COVID-19, we desperately need a unified national response to the climate crisis, because there is a climate crisis.
The order includes freezing new oil and gas leases on public lands and offshore waters, as well as cutting fossil fuel subsidies as he pursues green policies. This move towards protecting the environment is in stark contrast to policies pursued under Donald Trump, who sought to maximize U.S. oil, gas, and coal output by removing regulations and easing environmental reviews. It also focuses on green transition, for instance, doubling offshore wind-produced energy by 2030. Responding to fierce resistance from the oil industry, Biden stated that the move is as much about job creation as a climate crisis, mentioning the word job 15 times. Biden argued that demands for eco-friendly infrastructure would create work that would more than make up for job losses, even in parts of the country that are reliant on the fracking boom. Earlier in the day, Biden's international climate envoy John Kerry also said that Washington would host an international climate change summit for Earth Day on April 22nd. He added, by that time, there will be a new set of specific targets showing how the United States would lower its carbon dioxide emissions under the terms of the Paris Agreement. Former President Trump had previously withdrawn from the accord, but Biden rejoined the deal in his first week in office. 최정윤, Arirang News.
The International Olympic Committee pledged full commitment to hosting the Tokyo Olympics as scheduled, shooting down speculation over the Games' postponement or cancellation. However, a member of Tokyo's organizing committee questioned the IOC's leadership, stating that the future of the Games could depend on support from the United States. Choi Min-jung has more.
Amid escalating doubts over the postponed Tokyo Olympic Games, the International Olympic Committee reiterated its full commitment to successfully hosting the event this summer. IOC President Thomas Bach on Wednesday said the Games would take place as scheduled despite the COVID-19 pandemic, and added that speculation about postponement or cancellation was not helpful. His remarks follow reports suggesting the Games would be cancelled due to the resurgence of COVID-19 in Japan.
Our task is to organize Olympic Games and not to cancel Olympic Games. So we are not speculating of whether the Games are taking place. We are working on how the Games will take place.
The IOC further solidified its stance by revealing the soon-to-be-released playbooks containing countermeasures against COVID-19 for athletes and staff. Despite the confidence, however, a member of the Tokyo Organizing Committee says the future of the Games could depend on support from the United States' new administration. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal on Wednesday, Tokyo Olympics Committee member Haruyuki Takahashi said that, quote, "It is up to the United States, not the IOC, to make decisions about the Games." He also called for President Biden to make positive remarks regarding the Olympics so that Tokyo could gain strong momentum. In response, the IOC called Takahashi's comments obsolete and expressed regrets for his baseless statement. Meanwhile, with regard to the next Olympics scheduled for 2024 in Paris, the president of the organizing committee stated that Tokyo postponement would not have any impact on the event. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Seoul City plans to introduce its various cultural assets on social media. To check them out, log into the city's accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. From next Wednesday, you can see pictures and descriptions of 3 sites: the former Russian legation Yanghwa-Naru Ferry and Chamdubong Peak, as well as Seungdong Church. The goal is to draw more attention to Seoul's cultural assets and help people understand its history.
Good morning. It looks to be a rough winter day with snow and strong winds. Snow clouds moving in from the west will drop a moderate amount of snow on the entire country, and it could hit heavily over a short period. So the capital region is under a heavy snow advisory now, while the west coast is under strong wind alerts. In fact, we are talking about storm force winds reaching 20 meters per second, and weather alerts will be expanded to more regions as the day goes on today. East of Jeollado and the mountainous regions in Jeju could see up to 15 centimeters. Seoul and inland regions will see 1 to 7 centimeters of snowfall today, which could let up by evening in most parts. But by the evening commute, thermometers will be pointing at about -7 degrees Celsius here in the capital. So snow could cause icy roads. Then tomorrow morning, we are beginning the day at -12 degrees Celsius, but it could feel like -22 along with that strong wind chill. But this afternoon, highs in most parts will be a few notches lower compared to yesterday. But again, be well prepared for a return to harsh winter weather today. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that's a wrap for us at the hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
For the past 4 weeks, Korea has seen a steady decrease in the daily COVID-19 cases, thanks to the heightened social distancing measures nationwide. Taking into account the current hospital bed capacity and the slowed rate of infection, the Korean government has decided to extend the current social distancing level for 2 more weeks until January 31st. The Seoul metropolitan area maintains level 2.5 measures, as well as the ban on private gatherings of 5 or more people.